Hi, welcome to Alaskan in Thailand. Here on the beach in the afternoon, nice breezy day. Tide's up here pretty high. Hope you can't pick up the wind in the mic. Hopefully it's kind of blowing out today. Anyway, today I thought I'd talk about the process of elimination and how you pick a place to retire, without actually going there. The best thing we got going for us is YouTube, just like we're this here kind of explaining from different people which is the best deal for you. And we all kind of got to do our own research because we all have different wants and needs and things that we want out of life and retirement or just to travel. If we're going to visit a place where there's things we're going to want to have. And the first thing that comes to mind is safety. It's got to be safe. When I was doing my research on YouTube, just like all you guys are doing too, I had to think about it, and just basically going watching videos and reading the comments. You learn so much from the comments from people that have actually lived there, and that's kind of what I did. And I researched it, and I've seen where there's countries that got scammers. Some countries you got to worry about your bag. Somewhere you got to worry about pickpockets and all that. Some you got to worry about getting kidnapped, So that was a first consideration for me. Where was it safe and not as corrupt, hopefully. Some of the South American countries are really corrupt. Philippines, I hate to say, is pretty corrupt, and that was kind of a hard place to make it to, But anyway, that's the first thing to consider is safety. And then you want affordability, is the place going to be affordable for you? Everybody's, when you move over, you got a fixed income. Maybe you're not a rich man. Some people do have to worry about, their expenses as they retire. In fact, some are just bailing out of a bad situation and going to try it with what they have. And hopefully it can be realistically enough to make it happen for them, And that's, that will be to be seen, So you got that. And then your health care, you're going to need the health care in the long run too as you get older. And that's one thing that a lot of people really don't consider, They consider, where the girls are beautiful, where the easy, where they speak English. But when you get down to that last days of your life, the retirement, it's going to be how good the health care system is. And even though you may live out on a beautiful tropical island with your beautiful bride as you're getting older, when you actually need health care, you're going to have to move in closer to the big city like Manila or something. Even in Alaska, that was the same way with me. In Alaska, I would watch the elders and stuff have to get in a cramped airplane in the middle of the winter and fly to the bigger city next to us so they could get health care and checkups and things like that. And it's a real hard thing to do. Any emergency that comes up, if there's not immediate health care right there, you could be in deep, deep doo-doo. Especially, people think, and of course, if you go to Cambodia, I ain't saying their health care is bad there, or Vietnam or anything. I'm sure the people survive there. They must have some health care. Whether you find good health care or not can be said. But then they'll say, well, Bangkok's only an hour away. True, that is. If you're healthy enough to get on that airplane and fly an hour away, you'll be in good shape. But, they ain't going to let you on a plane with a stroke or a heart attack or you're bleeding all over the place and broken legs. They're not going to let you just get on an airplane. So you're going to be stuck with wherever you are. That's one thing to consider, That's just, sorry to beat that in the back of your head, but that's kind of what it really boils down to. And that's the reason I'm here in Thailand. Coming from the Philippines. I didn't trust the healthcare in the Philippines, and I needed to get my surgery, just a hernia fixed. So after doing the research again, I thought about going to Manila, but then I thought against it and thought, well, there's so much more in Thailand. I'll go check it out here, So I didn't really know any better other than just watching the YouTube. I didn't really travel to other countries other than the Philippines. I did go there, and that's where I had planned to retire. But like I say, when I needed the health care, I decided to come over here. And kind of glad I did because things are so much better and easier here. And let me list a few off the top of my head, The horn honking. There's no horn honking here. That's a very rare thing to find in an Asian country. Do you know how much that That adds to your peace and de-stressing when you're not hearing all the time, get out of the way, honking. They're not terribly rude about it, but it's just constant honking, letting other drivers know. That's kind of how they communicate to drive. But here, it ain't like that. They don't do it here, in this part of Thailand anyway. I'm not talking about maybe Bangkok's a noisy place, but down here, there's just a peaceful vibe about it that really, really does help when there's no horn honking like that. And actually, the Buddhists, they act like the Buddhist teachings are real good. They're real respectful. You don't see no graffiti all over the cities, except the artists, they do a good job. You don't see any vandalism, no broken bottles. The trash ain't just thrown around here and there, scattered around like you see in the Philippines, Although you will see some here, empty lots, people will throw some trash and stuff in it. But normally, walking around, you won't find a cigarette butt on the sidewalk, really. And that's something you didn't see in the Philippines. I haven't been to other countries to really compare to. I've been a border run to Burma, and that was different there. You could tell it was pretty third worldish. Of course, they got a war going on and stuff too. But yeah, I'm sure it was affordable, but I'm sure you'd get stuck there in healthcare. Same with like Cambodia. I've been asking people how that is, and they say it's good too, but it's got its, there's a lot of boxes it won't check for you there too. It's more of a, I guess the way it's been explained to me, there's more scam. It is kind of the scam capital of Asia right now, and I hate to go into an area where you're going to get your internet hacked and your phone hacked or your phone snatched and stuff. That's another thing. The crime here is very, very low. I've never heard of any phone snatching. I don't even worry about it. I get up and leave my phone and walk away and come back and it's still there. I've done it a few times. So there are some boxes you really need to check and think about, and is the food palatable for you? Is the food available for you, Like here we have all these markets, nice markets. Where I lived in the Philippines, I would have had to go downtown to go to a restaurant other than a sari-sari store, and that was kind of halfway between Valencia and Dumaguete. I could have went up to Valencia and ate some restaurants or down to Dumaguete boardwalk area, but right where I was, there really was no restaurants around. Just a couple of chicken places, not even Jollibees, just their little chicken common street vendors and stuff like that. So, and sari-sari stores. So you really do have to be careful and pick and make sure the country you pick checks all the boxes, and you each got to do your own due diligence on what it takes to make you happy in your retired life. And the boots on the ground, for sure, I'd make sure you do that. The best thing you can do until then is you go through YouTube and see what you can cipher from all us that are here in different places. And remember, no place has it all. You just got to have to give up a few things for one country or another. Some are worse than others. So just do your diligent research and you can find your happy place. I'm sure you can. So far, I've done pretty good, and I don't think I could do better. Who knows? Maybe I'll go find a better place someday yet, but for now, this place works for me. Well, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Give you a look around. Nice breeze day, beautiful weather. Sure to like, share, and subscribe. New uploads every day.